Welcome to CFC Fan TV. I'm delighted to be joined by Sam Peoples from UnitedPeoplesTV. We are here, of course, to preview the Chelsea versus Manchester United FA Cup final. Sam,
Yes,
how are you
Rory.
feeling about this game?
Confident Rory, but it's still United Chelsea. It is a proper FA Cup final, isn't it? You know, we've seen Wigan sneak in there a few years, but it's Man United against Chelsea.
That's the spirit that we're actually clinging on to. We're hoping to channel a Wimbledon in '88 because it feels to me, I mean, I'm not sure if this is how you're feeling. In fact, comment and let me know. I don't know if I've ever looked forward to an FA Cup final less. I'm so nervous. I'm hopeful, and I think that if we get it right, we can do it. I think if Eden Hazard has the game that I know he's capable of having, I think that we are in with a shout. But our form has been atrocious. You know, our last two games, we've drawn at home to Huddersfield in a must-win game, and we got battered at St James's Park on the final day of the season. And it's painful, and going in with that sort of form, I know anything can happen in a final, I know anything can happen in the FA Cup especially, but from a neutral's perspective and trying to see it for what it is, it feels like you are massive favourites here.
I would say we're favourites, but is this Conte's last game? No matter what happens in the result?
I think it. I don't know, but judging everything that's happened this season, the way that he's been reacting with the board, the board's reaction to him, the things that he's been saying in the press, it feels to me like this will be his final game at Chelsea.
Do you think that is a bad thing for Chelsea? Because obviously, if he was staying there next year, there's something to work towards. But for him, it will just be a showpiece.
I think the situation with Conte has sadly gone so far that there is no recovering it. It's got to such a level now that he needs to leave the club. I like Conte. He gave me a season last year like I've never experienced, and all being well on the weekend, we could finish this season with an FA Cup. It would mean that in 2 full seasons at the club, he's won a league and an FA Cup. Pretty impressive record.
Yeah.
To answer your question there about does it have an impact, I think it does, but not necessarily in the negative way that you suggested, because I think that his legacy is something that means a lot to him. We lost the FA Cup final last year, and we had an opportunity to win a double in his first year, which would have been incredible. We didn't take that opportunity. I think that he'll be looking at it now, thinking of his next job, thinking of his legacy at Chelsea. If he can leave with an FA Cup, it would be a very, very impressive resume. I think history would be very kind to a manager that came in for 2 years, won 2 of the biggest domestic trophies available. The two biggest domestic trophies available, and then moved on. So I think that he'll be really up for it, but he's made some massive mistakes.
Is last year going to play on your mind? Because obviously you going into that game, you were heavy favourites, and you feel like going into this game, you're underdogs. Yes,
I think it will be. It will play a big issue actually. The thing that also troubles me is Antonio Conte hasn't won a final. I don't think he's ever won a final, and obviously we're going up against Mourinho as a man who's only ever won finals. So that's an issue in itself. The fact that last year we've lost the cup final when we should have won it, it's troubling. However, last year bears no relevance to this year. You know, it happened. It went wrong. Victor Moses got sent off. Gave away. You know, it just didn't work. However, I think it will be an issue, but we can get over it, and hopefully it can go one of 2 ways. We could use last year's defeat and last year's heartache as a springboard to ensure that we go into this game firing on all cylinders, ready to win the game. Whether that happens or not, I don't know. How from your perspective, looking at Chelsea, from the outside looking in, are you scared? Do you think that we can do this, or are you just going into this thinking it's party time at Wembley?
I remember playing you, obviously, when Mourinho first came back to Stamford Bridge. That was when will Kante
4-0 game.
Will Kante be fit or not? Oh, Kante was fit. Oh, he had a blinder.
Yeah. Scored, didn't he?
Yeah, I know. He just loves scoring against United. Yeah. Fingers crossed it doesn't happen on Saturday. Yeah. But for me, looking at this Chelsea team, I'm seeing the same issues that I've seen with previous Chelsea managers that just keep repeating themselves with the manager and the board and the conflict that always happens. But it's a model that you've built your success on. You know, you've replaced a manager every 1 or 2 years. Someone comes in and has an immediate success, and they don't take 2 or 3 years to help bring a club back to where it should be, which is what United are on. We're on this really long progressive upward turn, which it wasn't upward under David Moyes. It was pretty flat under Van Gaal, but we've seen big progress this year. And United fans going into it, we should be confident, because especially if you look at the Spurs semi-final. You know, 1-0 down against Spurs in technically what was their home ground, and they've only lost against City and I think Chelsea there.
Yeah.
we had a fantastic second half.
But do you know what, Sam? That's what troubles me about this final. I was watching that final at home. I was watching the United-Tottenham game, and I was watching Tottenham playing some glorious football. They were knocking it about. They were at Wembley. It was all destined to be a Tottenham victory. They went 1-0 up. They missed another chance. They were dominating the game. And I'm watching that, and the whole game I'm just sitting there thinking United are going to win this. There was no doubt in my mind that United were going to win it. And that's actually a throwback to the United sides under Fergie. You know, there were times when you just watch United, they could be 2-0 down with 6 minutes remaining. You think they're going to pull this out of the bag. And when you start having that aura around you, it becomes infectious and it works. And that's how I was watching that game. I was watching you play Tottenham, and I knew you were going to win. And the reason that I knew you were going to win now really scares me.
And do you not give yourself any... Obviously, there's a chance because it's a final, but is it a real... Do you think that's a general consensus among Chelsea fans going into this game is like, oh God?
I mean, from my pool of mates who are going to the game and like the Chelsea WhatsApp group that I'm in, nobody has looked forward to a final less than this one. This is the final that people are going, oh God, we're going to lose to Mourinho at Wembley. It's just going to be a sorry end to an even sorrier season. Roll on the World Cup. That's the general, because that's what I'm finding. I would like to think that there is some optimism out there, and if you have any, can you comment below and tell me why we're going to win? Because I need your optimism. I think that there are. Look, firstly, it's the FA Cup final, and stranger things have happened. Wigan City, Wimbledon, Liverpool. You know, these things do happen at Wembley. Equally, we're a good team. We're a good team on our day. If we get it right. Eden Hazard is one of the best players in the world. If he plays well, Chelsea will probably win the game. In Olivier Giroud, we've got a bit of a cult hero in the making. People are playing very well off him. He's leading the line very well. He's hungry. He wants goals. He scores goals. There's that. Willian has a very good record against Manchester United, and I rate him very highly.
I really like Willian.
Yeah, he scored against you already this season. You know, in N'Golo Kante, we have one of the best players in his position in the world. There is loads of reasons
why hasn't it been working out for you? Why are you so far off? What's gone wrong that you can change going into this game?
I think there's been a few crucial errors, and as much as I love Antonio Conte, I think he has made some crucial errors.
Yeah.
The Alvaro Morata situation just didn't work out. I hope it still does. You know, there's a chance that he'll come round and hopefully find a bit of form, but that one didn't work for us. We lost Diego Costa, who's one of the best strikers I've ever seen. You know, he was so good.
Yeah, you didn't replace him.
His eye for a goal was just outrageously good.
And he was just a complete dick.
In a good way.
Yeah, I know.
I mean,
the sort of complete dick that you can only support if he plays for your team. But when he plays for your team, you love him. But
we never replaced him. Conte falling out with him, it's bordering on the unforgivable. Equally, we have a player of David Luiz's quality who's currently not around because Conte's fallen out with him.
Yeah.
So there are lots of issues where Conte is at fault, but equally he's a victim of a club that he doesn't feel like he was given the right backing in the transfer market. Yeah. He's, you know, so it has gone wrong this season. It's felt very spiteful at times. It's felt quite divisive, and it's felt quite poisonous at Stamford Bridge. Saying that, if we win the FA Cup,
it changes it completely.
It changes it because I imagine that I'll come in for some stick here because I think people view the FA Cup very differently, and I don't know if it's the same with the people who watch your channel, but our viewers are pretty split on where they stand on the FA Cup. Some people love it, feel like me about it, think it's a trophy steeped in tradition and glory. Other people view it as not much better than the League Cup.
I think the FA Cup, for me personally, the FA Cup really lost quite a lot of its romance when semi-finals were taken away from neutral venues and it all went to Wembley. Became
about finance.
This showpiece in the same location, but the allure, the attraction of it was just playing at Villa Park, playing at random locations, two clubs coming together. That's when you remembered FA Cup semi-finals. Now it's just everyone goes to Wembley, another game at Wembley, and Wembley, I'm sorry, the new Wembley is just it's a soulless bowl.
It's the worst stadium. I reckon over in my life I couldn't even tell you how many stadiums I've been to, but I've been to a stadium on every continent. And Wembley is by far and away the worst stadium I've ever been to. It's a sanitised, corporate, soulless hole.
I think the Olympic Stadium might be slightly worse.
The Olympic Stadium's not built with football in mind though, so it's very unfair to have that debate.
Yeah, that's a fair point. Yeah, it's built literally for football.
It's built for football, and it's rubbish. But if we were to win there, it always feels better after a win.
But for that reason, that's why I've lost some of my romance towards the FA Cup. It still is.
But you love it.
It's still, you love the FA Cup. You still love it. Is the most important domestic trophy. It is steeped in history, and if you do win the FA Cup, it's not a bad season. It's the mark of a good season.
I agree. And if Conte were to leave Chelsea having won the league and the FA Cup, so be it. That would be a wonderful haul for him to have left us. If that's to happen, Sam, we need to get it spot on. You watch United week in, week out. How do we beat United? What do we do?
You sit deep and disciplined. If you sit deep and disciplined and you can play on the counter-attack, United's defence this year, we might have the second best defence in the league. That's not because of our defence.
Right.
It's because of our goalkeeper.
Right.
David De Gea has just been phenomenal.
Yeah.
He's got won the Golden Glove this year, most clean sheets. Those clean sheets have been because he's been brilliant, not because our defence has been stopping teams create chances.
Right.
So if you sit deep, United have struggled against teams this season that have sat deep and disciplined because as much as we've got Sanchez now and Mata's in the team, we've not really had the playmaker because Pogba's been in and out of the team so much that can find those passes that break down. Those dangerous passes that go through two lines.
Yeah.
Instead of passing sideways.
Mata-esque pass.
Yeah, the one that goes straight through. They're the sorts of passes you need to break disciplined teams down. And United have struggled against them. If you can do that and hit fast on the counter-attack, just don't try it and beat Antonio Valencia. Leave him alone, but go for Ashley Young.
Right.
Ashley Young
So your left side.
Left-hand side, especially because we're going to be... Martial probably won't start. I don't know.
So we need Victor Moses on the overlap.
You'll be starting Sanchez out on the left there with Ashley Young. Now, Ashley Young has been good at left back. Let's not get this twisted because he was in Garth Crooks' team of the year at left back, which shouldn't have happened. But that's Garth Crooks. Young is a very limited left back. If he even considers going forward, spacing behind, you're going to get there.
Right.
He has been caught out, especially the Spurs game. I think it was Davinson Sanchez. Exactly this launched the ball right over the top of him. This is where the goal came from.
When Ericsson whipped it in. Yeah.
Right over the top of him. Ericsson just ran past, whipped it in, Dele Alli goal.
So that would be your Achilles heel, that side?
Yeah, for me. The left-hand side. Right-hand side's pretty secure with Valencia because he's phenomenal. He's an absolute athlete.
So that's where we can expose. Where do we need to keep you quiet? Where's your biggest threat? Pogba and Lukaku?
Pogba. Pogba is... It's just a very strange season. It basically mirrors what United's season has been like, is Pogba's individual season. It's that brilliant moment, brilliant games, disappears in other games. Other games that he should be controlling. But you look at the City game, we're 2-0 down, he scores 2, we win 3-2.
Yeah.
Biggest performance from him in the biggest of games of the season to that point. Yeah. That's what he's capable, and we know he's capable of that, and that's where the frustrations come from for United fans with Pogba. But Pogba against Conte last couple of times, it's been Conte.
Yeah.
United need to win that midfield battle. Pogba needs to show his dominance against Conte. And if he can do that, and we can control the midfield, because we've got Matic who clean it all up, just like he always does, that's for me where the game will be won and lost. And it's such a cliche thing to say, but it genuinely is. If we can control the midfield, then we're going to get Sanchez into play more. If we don't, Sanchez is going to start dropping way too deep because he's like, where's the ball? Yeah. It's kind of a bad thing about Sanchez. He always does that.
He just wants the ball.
He just wants the ball all the time. And that drags him out of position. Then United won't be as fluid going forward. And that all stems from whether we can run through the middle or not. And Pogba needs to have a good game. So if you can put Kante man marking Pogba, and you can still control the midfield whilst doing that.
Do you know what? You cheered me up, Sam, because if this game can be won, if this game is delicately poised enough to be won on a Kante versus Pogba basis, I'll take those odds, because in N'Golo Kante we have one of the most complete midfielders I think I've ever been privileged enough to see. People always see him. It frustrates me slightly on Match of the Day and that people see him as a negative force, kind of guy who breaks it all down. So good on the ball, so good at playing a pass, very skilled. Do you know what he's excellent at? You know, when the ball comes into him, he's always got a little trick, like a little jink, drop of a shoulder, just to buy himself half a yard.
Yeah.
As soon as the ball, every time a ball comes into him, it's always just a little move, and he's a very clever midfielder. So, him versus Pogba, it's a clash of the heavyweights. Two incredible players. But if it comes down to the midfield battle, maybe we have a chance.
I think it can do, but Mourinho is smart enough to make sure that it's not just a midfield battle. And if we do play Lukaku, we have somebody who has the ability then to negate the midfield. Just chip it over to Lukaku, let him chest it down, and then bring Sanchez and Valencia into play. But we can do that and then maybe skip over Kante's strengths.
Yes.
Then we can probably
that's what's troubling
because
Lukaku's hold-up play has actually improved massively, hasn't it?
Massively, but that's what I fear because he's been out injured, missed the last couple of games. He won't be 100% match fit for this. Even if he starts the FA Cup final, he's not as fit as he was prior to getting injured because he's not as sharp.
Do you know what, Sam? You've cheered me up.
I kind of wish I'd stopped talking now. Shall I just stop talking then?
Sam, thank you so much for coming on. I really do appreciate it.
Mate.
Make sure that you check out Sam's channel. We've done a review on his channel actually from a different perspective, so make sure that you have a look on that.
I'm sure you do.
And yeah, thank you so much for watching this video, and I will see you all at Wembley.